to you by 3asoh.com. That's 3asoh.com. And we are the School of Health Radio podcast. We're excited to journey with you in this health-oriented podcast. This podcast is on the subject of health, all manner of health. Well, what do you mean all manner of health? All manner of health, physical health, mental health, spiritual health. We talked about agriculture. The subject of health is broad, and we're going to cover as much and all of it as you are willing to go through with us. And who are we? We are the School of Health Radio podcast because our lives are greatly affected by our health and by the health of others, whether they are healthy or not. And who am I? I am T. Christopher Smith, your host. I am the director of the Three Angels School of Health for over 15 years. I have been a missionary veteran for 20 years, and I've been training missionaries for 20 years. I've been training medical missionaries for over 15 years. And I'm a farmer, a biological farmer. I am a Christian. I love Jesus and the people for whom he gave his life. That is the reason why I do this podcast, because I want to encourage people in health. Now, I love the truth because there's no benefit to being a part of a lie. I love the truth. I care less about feelings and more about truth. But I care about feelings, but I just care about the truth more. And so today, we're going to start off with the news of the day as we always do, because we are in the midst of a crisis, a global pandemic regarding coronavirus and COVID-19. And right now I'm looking at my screen and it says coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic overview. It says the United States cases, there are 400,788 cases. There have been almost 13,000 deaths. And, they say the number of those recovered is 22,000. I don't understand that number. Not that I don't understand it. I don't understand, if you didn't die from it, I guess they're saying those are the ones who were afflicted. Anyway, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Anyway, worldwide, 1.43 million people have been confirmed cases, and over 82,000 people have died worldwide. Now, it is a pandemic, but again, in perspective, the numbers don't show that it is as bad as heart disease. It's not as bad as cancer. It's not as bad as accidents. It is bad and it's frightening because you can get it and you don't know how you can get it. But it's the flu. The flu's the same way, and I'm not diminishing it. I'm just saying perspective. And so COVID-19 is very serious, and it's very interesting to me when you look at the COVID-19 map. When you go to, you can go to Drudge Report, and you can go down to where it says Sick Map, and you can go to the www.arcgis.com, and you can look up their dashboard, and they will give you the map. You can see the map itself. I'm looking at it now on my screen. And it shows you the red spots of where the virus is. And if you've been looking at this every day like I've been looking at it, you can see why it started off massive in Asia, and then the numbers started going down, and then it blew up in the Middle East and in Africa, and then it came over to America. And at first it was only on the coasts of America, on the eastern coast and the western coast. And then it blew up, and right now the entire one half of the country on the east is like almost solid red. And then there are dots all over on the west coast. And so, it looks bad, but things aren't as bad as they predicted. We have not gotten the 200,000 deaths. Now, they said, it's possible. They are saying that we are going to expect another wave. That's what's happening in China right now. And so, there are many different things that are going on in the news. But you know what? We hear about this all day, every day. I want to go over some other things today because I've been talking about this in this podcast, and I've been easing into some things and some things not so much. But one of the things I want to talk to you today about is we've been talking lately about the issues of how you view health, and therefore your understanding of science. And we've been talking about science, and we've been talking about how science was affected by the movement in the 19th century, in the 1800s, the movement against God and against religion and science. And even then, we talked about the book. I have it here. I have a book called here, The Evolution Cruncher. I don't know if you can see that on the screen. And then I have another one. It's both published by the same individual. This one here, which is called The Evolution Handbook. And this one here is a handbook which shows the arguments regarding evolution, the arguments regarding versus creation, and the individuals who were for or against these things, the scientists and the science of it. And we talked a little bit about that. We talked about the book, The Origin of the Species, and how it had racist ties to it, and how it was written by someone who wasn't a scientist, someone who dropped out of, he didn't finish school from my understanding, but this book, which sparked a movement, which scientists now go back to this book and they're ashamed of the science in this book. This book is so poorly written. The assertions in this book are so, but people take it as gospel truth now. If you don't believe in evolution, you are considered a heretic in the science field. A heretic. And when you have men who question anything of the science of, and they talk about these things, but we talked about what happens when you reject true science. When you reject true science, the operations of nature, when you reject those things and you see, they were trying to prove that there was evolution by saying, oh, look at these finches, they're different here. And not adaptation, which all of us understand. All human beings have similarities. We heads and arms and feet and skin and teeth and noses and eyelids and all these things, and we all generally stand upright except for some illness or debility. We are very similar and different human beings. If you have someone from Alaska and they meet someone from South America, they can get together and have children, and their children will be pretty normal. Their skin tones might change a little bit because you can see adaptation. You see adaptation when you see those who live around the equator have adapted to equatorial living. And those who have lived in the north have adapted to that. We have the ability to adapt. It's a part of who we are. Adaptation is not evolution. Charles Darwin saw some finches that had adapted, there on the islands when he went, and he called that evolution. But we go back and show that they're genetically, they're still finches. And so when we're talking this today about health, it has to deal with the source. And for those who believe in the Creator, they believe that they have a source. And when those who believe in the Scriptures, they believe that the Scriptures declare how creation came about. And those who believe that creation came about by a Creator, and that Creator says that he took the dust of the earth and he formed man of the dust of the earth, and there was water coming up. It says that there was a mist that came up out of the earth, and he formed a body, and those scriptures say that he made him a body of clay. And this body of clay was a body, and he fashioned it such, and then it says he breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Before, it was just a body. And death is the same way now. People who die stop breathing. And when there is no breath, death. As a matter of fact, when I was going and I became an EMT, and when we were, they had just changed the rules at that time. Beforehand, it used to do, you'd have to, do so many pumps of the heart when you're trying to recover someone. And you're pumping on their heart. And then you would give them so many breaths. But now they say you give them 2 breaths and you pump. You multiple pumps. because you want to keep the circulation going because there's oxygen already in the system, and so you don't have to worry about it. And they just say you just keep pumping the heart. 2 breaths per minute, I think, is what they were doing. 2 puffs per minute. It's been a while. But see, when you have a design and a designer, and you understand where man came from, because the scriptures declare that man came from the soil. Now, even evolution declares that all things began by some sludge. And that things continued over time and they developed and they got better. We've never seen any true evidence of this. No true evidence. But it's taken as gospel fact because no one wants to be accountable for their life, because the same one who created says that you have responsibilities with the life that you've been given. And if you believe that your life is your own and you want to do your own thing, then you don't want to believe that there is no God. And the scriptures say that the fool had said in his heart, there is no God. But when the ship is going down, when the plane is going down, I've been in these places where people begin to pray to God, the strongest atheist. But so when you talk about the laws of health, you have to deal with the laws of agriculture then, because if the scriptures declare that man was made from the soil, and if you're dealing with the laws of agriculture, you have to deal with the laws of nature, how nature is put together, that it has a design. Why is it that you and I get the most health out of the things that come out of the soil? When you and I eat the flesh of dead animals, you're getting your nutrients secondhand because you're getting it from what the animals ate. And sometimes you really don't have a lot of choices there. If you live up in the frozen tundra of the north, and you have to eat what you have there, you're not going to get as much nutrients as someone who can eat firsthand. The fruits, the grains, the nuts, the vegetables, and the seeds. And so we have this debate, and actually it seems like there's still a debate, but many have declared that the debate is over between science and nature. Science, so-called science. But science that denies that there is a plan is science that wanders off without any kind of with nothing tethering it, except for whatever man's desire is. But I believe that science and nature have one author, and that they are not opposed to one another, but they are, like Sir Isaac Newton declared, that they have this one author. They work together. And the laws of nature are the laws of our being. If you declare that you do not believe that there are laws regarding our being, you can jump off the side of a building, but you will not fly no matter how much you think you will. You will go through the air, but you will hit the ground because of a law called gravity. And even if you're able to run really fast and jump, and you can go through the air because of centrifugal force, the law of centrifugal force still is affected by the law of gravity, and the law of gravity pulls the law of centrifugal force, and whatever that object is, down back to the surface. And so there are laws regarding our being, I believe. And I believe that these laws are made manifest. These laws are revealed in nature. And that when you study these laws, when you study the things of nature, you can study the laws that regard these various things. So you can look and say, when you're sitting under the apple tree and you want to understand gravity, and you see that when the apple falls from the tree, it falls, and then you can do tests and you can see, well, how long does it take an apple to fall versus a pear or an acorn? And you can do the test, and they both go down. So you can study these laws, and a true scientist studies the laws of the things. And there are many that are wonderful scientists. There are many that they don't believe in God, but they believe in the study of nature, and they have learned many things thereby. And so as we look at these things, as we look at them, and then we go to the laws of agriculture, because the laws of agriculture have a great deal to do with the laws that govern our bodies. In agriculture today, there is a war brewing. And men are dying. As a matter of fact, suicides among farmers is going up. 400 plus farmers have died in the last few years, mostly from suicide. Because the business of agriculture has been turned into a debt business. The farmers are very much like slaves to the system. And because of futures and because of the way that things are going, governments get in and they determine certain things are to be protected. And so they protect them. The government monitors or controls the price of milk, the price of corn. Why is it that some things are so much cheaper at the store than other things? Because of government subsidies. And so the farmers are forced, they feel, to grow things to get the most bushels per acre, and the most bushels per acre do not give you the most nutrition. Because the most nutrition is found in foods that are highly mineralized and foods that are nutrient dense, where the chemical constituents, the minerals in the soil are in such a way that the plant can take them up. But if you don't even worry about putting back in the soil. And this is why you can see from the time when the Pilgrims landed, the agricultural process that is taken, and you can see how the land has been eaten up or destroyed or used up all the way going to the West. And now we depend upon the West primarily as a breadbasket. But what was interesting to me is that in the 1930s, when you had the Dust Bowls, because of the farming practices, we lost massive amounts of our topsoil. And the topsoil is the most important part of the soil for agricultural needs. This is where the plants get their nutrients from. You have plants like alfalfa that will send down, if you let the alfalfa grow for 2 years in a row, it'll send down almost over 20 feet roots down deep into the soil. Alfalfa is amazing. That's why alfalfa is so wonderful for nutrition. But the plants that are able to go down deeper into the root. But if you plow and you scrape the ground and you make it to where it has a hard pan so that the plant roots can't get through it, then the plant roots get bound up and they have to go out and they can't get as much nutrients. How we farm has everything to do with the kind of nutrition our food has. And the farmers that are growing food for nutrition, they do not charge like the farmers who are not. When you and I taste the difference, I talked to you last week about these, about some mangoes. Oh man, these mangoes. Oh, I had some amazing mangoes last week. I went to go buy some more of those mangoes, but they didn't have them. They didn't have them for the 25-cent price that they were. But these mangoes were amazing because they were nutritious. And nutritious food tastes better. Delicious fruits are better than candy bars and ice cream because they give you both satisfaction in taste and nutrition. Isn't that amazing? Don't you want that? Don't you want health and nutrition and taste? Isn't it horrible to eat something that tastes disgusting? We're going to take a break now, my brothers and my sisters, and this podcast is being brought to you by 3asoh.com. That's 3asoh.com. 3asoh.com is a health education platform. 3asoh.com is your home for health education. With upcoming classes like how to boost your immune system. Isn't that what we need now? Don't you need to know how to boost your immune system? How to boost your lungs immune system? How to boost your circulatory immune, how to boost the immune system for your body? How to overcome stress and depression? How you can heal with water? Food therapy, or rather healing with food. Massage for life, healing with herbs, mind cure, how to heal the mind, how to restore your mind. Growing healing foods, 3asoh.com for all your health education needs. That's 3asoh.com with courses coming soon. The courses are not up yet, but they are coming very, very soon, and we will let you know when they come. You can begin to pre-order. We'll let you know when. 3asoh.com for all your educational needs. So, nature, science, evolution. You and I, this debate about evolution is a very serious one, because those who do not believe in God still have the same aims as those that do believe in God. The desire is that they should live forever. Have you ever heard of something called 2045.com? 2045.com. It's a movement. And it's a movement from men and women who do not believe in God, in judgment, in eternity. But they do believe, they are working right now on how to live forever without God. And this is what's happening in Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley, you have people who are there working to defeat death. They want to live forever. They're not just trying to get rid of diseases. Yes, that's one of the reasons why they're creating artificial intelligence. And I hope we get to talk about that one soon. Artificial intelligence, why? Because they want to be able at some point, they have a plan. And we are already in the midst of their plan. Their plan started in 2011. And so, this is a worldwide thing. There are many people and billions of dollars into it. Google's into it. They have something called DeepMind. They're working on how to create a mind, how to create an AI that would help them to be able to design things so that they can take our mind and first our brains and our spinal cords and put them into a host carrier, another body, a mechanical body possibly. They want to be able ultimately to transfer your personality to to download it, like you download a video or a program. But these are individuals who do not believe in God per se, at least not the God of the Scriptures. These are individuals who believe, and when you watch the video, it's about 7 minutes long, and I've showed it to many people. And when you watch that video, they tell you at the end, it's all about bringing us to a place to where all you have to worry about is your spiritual development. It is just eternal life without God. That's all it is. And I'm not trying to beat up, if you don't believe in God, I'm not trying to push God on you. I'm just telling you these are the facts. And facts don't care about feelings, I heard one man say. And so one of the things that I've seen is that you have two classes of people when it comes to these things. And these two classes of people, one believes that science is going to bring them to eternity where man can live forever because man will be the author of his own existence. And another says, well, life is something that was given us, and therefore we have responsibilities with it, and then we are on probation now, and that hopefully, if we do those things that that are asked of us, that we will have eternal life in a world not filled with wretchedness and sin and death. And so you have these two debates. So when you're dealing with the laws of health and the laws of agriculture, That's because you're dealing with the laws of nature in these things. And I want to give you some things. Let me pull something up here for you. I'm going to open up a book here. And this book is called The Encyclopedia of Medicinal Plants. I don't know if you can see that on the screen there. The Encyclopedia of Medicinal Plants. It's written by a medical physician out of Europe. And this medical physician out of Europe, he put together a series of books. One is an encyclopedia on foods and their healing power. This one here is an encyclopedia on plants, and what this one here goes through, it has plants for various parts of your body. What plants are good for this? There are plants for the heart and plants for the throat and plants for the nervous system. I'm just passing through right here. And he talks about how the plants work and what they do. Plants for your nervous system. I think I mentioned that, how plants work. All the different elements of the plant. Methods of distilling essences from the plants. And he has the whole plan in here, how you can do this. These books are amazing. I use them as a resource all the time. There are plants for your mouth, plants for all the different portions of the body. But today I want to talk to you about plants for your respiratory system. Plants for our respiratory system. Because I'm going to list off some of these plants for you. Plants that are good for your respiratory system. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to, there are these plants in the respiratory system. It says, let me look at it again. Antitussive plants, asthma, balsamic plants, blood in the sputum, hepatitis, bronchodilator plants, bronchitis, cough, expectorant plants, hemophysis, thank you, sir, lung emphysema, pectoral plants, all these different ones, pneumonia. There's all these different ones, and I apologize. I'm a medical missionary, but it doesn't mean I have good pronunciation. And these plants I'm going to list them off, some of you. Blue gum, which is eucalyptus. Burnet sassafrage. Butterbur. Camillito. Canada root, which is Plucy root. Canadian fir tree. Carrageenan, or Irish moss. Cat's foot, chickweed, colt's foot, common plantain, desert tea, elecampane, elfdock, or elecampane. It is eucalyptus, garden violet, greater pimpernel, ground ivy. So many different plants. There's probably about 50 plants on here. Guac, gum plant, hart's tongue, hemp nettle, horehound, hyssop, Iceland moss, Irish moss, Jerusalem sage or lungwort, licorice, lungwort, mother of thyme, mullein, myrtle, onion, pine tree, Plucy root, poppy, primrose, rusty back, Senegal snake root, silver fir, soapwort, sugarcane, Venus hair, Virginian bird cherry, white clover, white iris, black cherry, Virginia bird cherry, wild clover, and yew. These are the plants. And now I'm going to go over some of these things that these plants do. And I have some of them that I looked up. I want to talk to you tonight about something called colt's foot. And these are plants that are good for your respiratory system. And colt's foot, thank you so much. Colt's foot, Latin writers of ancient times defined the colt's foot as Filium antepartrium, son before the father, since its flowers grow in early spring, 2 or 3 months before its leaves. The latter do not mature until the flowers start withering. The plant has been used as an antitussive for time immemorial. And so we're going to come back and talk more about this colt's foot, its use, how you use it, and what kind of a benefit it is, because these are plants that are good for your respiratory system. Now, I'm not telling you to go out there and get colt's foot and do anything with it. I am an educator. I am teaching you about these things. I'm going to show you some of these other things and how they work after we come back from our break. This segment of our show is brought to you by you. You may want to know how you can become a partner in health education with School of Health Radio. You can go to paypal.com and enter paypal.me/School of Health, no spaces. That's paypal.me/School of Health, no spaces. And just simply become a monthly contributor just by giving $5 or more a month. With just that low donation, you can help bring health to the world. This will support this podcast. So please join us by becoming a monthly contributor to the School of Health Radio podcast. That is, go to PayPal and enter paypal.me/School of Health, no spaces. Thank you. God bless. So we're back. And we were talking about, there are things in nature and that have been designed for man. And that's really something I've read in the scripture. Something I've read in the scripture where it talks about the leaves of the nation. Matter of fact, that'll be our scripture of the day. Let's go in and look at our scripture of the day. Revelation chapter 22. As a matter of fact, hold on one second. I'm going to look it up here. Oh, no, it's there. It's Revelation 22. Revelation chapter 22. Revelation 22, and I'm going to go to verse 2. Actually, I'll start with 1 and 2. It says, and he showed me, Revelation 22, 1 and 2, and he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb. And in the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. So the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. And it's very interesting to me that the leaves of trees are used in healing. The leaves of plant are used in healing. And you can use this plant, coltsfoot. You know what a synonym for coltsfoot is? British tobacco, bull's foot, butterbur, coughwort, flower velour, hole's foot, horsefoot, and horse hoof. That in French is tussilage. In Spanish is tussilago. It grows in cold, wet soils all over Europe. It prefers, it's called argillaceous soils, though it may also be found in other kinds of soils. It's not common here in America. It's a vivacious plant of the Compataceae family, growing up to 30 centimeters high, with underground stems from which flowering, fleshy stems grow annually. Their leaves are reduced to scales, and in their tip grows a yellow flower head. After the flowers, large petaled leaves with whitish underside grow. This is an amazing plant. I am giving it to you. I have never seen coltsfoot. I've never grown coltsfoot. I'm giving you that which I have read. Now, some others I do know about, and let me go to one that I do know about. This one here is called mullein. Mullein is an amazing plant, and you've probably seen it some places. I've been down to Oregon and other places, and you'll see it growing on the side of the road, and it grows up. As a matter of fact, one of the things my family likes it for is because if you go out camping and you run out of toilet paper, you can use mullein. Now, don't tell everybody online that they can use mullein, because somebody might go pluck it all up when you can't buy as much toilet paper from Costco as you want. But mullein is especially good for the respiratory system. Mullein, also called Aaron's rod, blanket leaf, candlewick, flannel flower, feltwort, great mullein, hedge tapper, Jacob's staff, mullein dock, old man's flannel, shepherd's club, velvet dock, and velvet plant. And the reason why it's called these things is because the leaves are soft and velvety. I mean, it's really nice. And this one here, this plant, it's the properties and indications of it. The leaves of mullein, especially its flowers, contain mucilage, to which the plant owes its emollient, soothing properties. It says saponins and flavonoids with anti-inflammatory and antitussive and antispasmodic properties. This is why it's good for people who may have issues with asthma and other health issues with their lungs. Properties and several glycosides and coloring substances. It has diuretic and mild sulfuric properties. Its use is recommended in the following cases: irritation of the respiratory mucous membrane. I'm reading here out of the book. Pharyngitis, laryngitis, bronchial catarrh, that's like the flu, and asthma because of antispasmodic properties. Mullein eases cough and encourages exportation, or I apologize, expectoration. And that just means that you spit up. It means you cough up the mucus. That's all that means. In external applications, it is useful for furnicles, burns, and many other things, even hemorrhoids. It can be applied either as a compress soaked in decoction made with flowers and leaves, or as poultices made with its leaves after cooking them in milk. And this one here, it says the internal use for it out of this book says that you can make an infusion, that's like a tea, with 20 to 30 grams of flowers per liter of water. You drink 3 or 4 cups daily after carefully straining the infusion with a cloth in order to eliminate hairs. And so, or you can use it as a dry extract. And they say the recommended dose is 0.5 to 1 gram 3 times a day. Now, I'm not telling you to do that. I'm not a doctor. I'm just reading you from the book what this doctor says you can use it for. You can use it as an external use. That was external use. Soaked in a decoction made with 60 to 80 grams of flowers and leaves per liter of water and apply it to the affected skin area. Or you can put it in a poultice with the leaves after cooking it in milk directly applied to the afflicted area. This is mullein. And mullein can be used. And I heard one man say that you can take mullein and some of these other herbs, and you can get what you call a dream team for your respiratory system. You know, you can take some of these others that are there. There is wild clover. We already talked about colt's foot. There is the yew. You know, there is mother of thyme. There are these other plants. There is chickweed. And chickweed, I don't know if you've ever had chickweed. You can eat chickweed. We've eaten chickweed in my family. You can eat it in salads or you can cook it like spinach. But chickweed also is very good for your respiratory system. Sugarcane. Oh, man. When I was in Fiji and they would give us these sugarcane and you would eat it, it is like a natural candy. It was delicious. But sugarcane is also very good for your respiratory system. Not the sugar, but the cane. And so I'm just listing some of these things and their help. Lungwort is interesting to me that they call it lungwort. It's a pectoral and an anti-inflammatory. It means it helps you to spit stuff up. And so here are things that grow in nature that are there for the use of man. And as the Bible said, that the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. Now listen, that's amazing to me, which means that when we get to heaven, we're going to get there. We'll have bodies similar to what we have now, only they won't die. But our bodies will have to be restored because sin has caused us to be broken down and weakened. And, you know, we're shorter or, you know, we're not the stature that we ought to be. And so for me, when I talk about health and education, when I talk about these things that are available for us, it's important to know that there are things that you and I can do. We're going to take a break now. And I want to encourage you as you are listening to this podcast, that is School of Health Radio broadcast. School of Health radio broadcast can be found at anchor.fm/School of Health Radio. You can find it on Spotify, Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, or wherever you find your podcast. Just search for School of Health Radio. That is, again, School of Health Radio podcast can be found at anchor.fm/School of Health Radio, Spotify, Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, or wherever you find your podcast. Just search for School of Health Radio. In our last segment, I'm not giving you remedies or things that you can do. I've purposely not gone down that route as of yet. I wanted to take this podcast and talk about the larger things and then bring them down to some very specific things and to deal with things. I want to give you foods that are good for you, plants that are good for you, ways that you can use them, and interviews with individuals who do this on a daily basis, doctors and physicians, medical missionaries, and others. People who have had an experience with these various things. I've tried different things in my life. Some things have worked and some things haven't. There's been a lot of trial and error, especially in the medical ministry, in the medical missionary work. I've seen, some things that work for others and other things that don't work. Everything doesn't work for everyone. I remember a friend of mine. He got hurt pretty badly. He got bit by a snake. And there's a plant here that is in this section on plants for the respiratory system, but it was not just good for the respiratory system. It's common plantain. You've seen it. It's the broad leaf and the common, the thin leaf. There's different kinds. But they didn't pick it for his lungs, because he wasn't having a lung problem. He got bit by a snake, a poisonous snake, a copperhead. And this copperhead snake, and they're 40 minutes from the nearest hospital out in the country. And what they did was they went and they gathered up this common plant and they mixed it with, they made a poultice of charcoal, and they put it on where he had been bitten, and they put this poultice all over his arm, and then they wrapped his arm in saran wrap, and then they put his arm in ice to stop the flow of the poison from spreading. They gave him extra vitamin C. They pumped his system. They gave him vitamin C. He had been coming down with a cold, and they gave him, I don't know how much vitamin C. I want to say 10,000 or 20,000 units, not units, excuse me, milligrams of vitamin C. That's about 10 to 20 grams, which is quite a lot. And this man who was bit on his hand while he was checking the snake was in his, he was checking on his potato plants, and the snake was in there. And when he reached down, he thought he saw something. It reached up and it bit him. And they took this plant and they used this plant and they just made this poultice, and they watched over him. And that same man who plays the piano at church was able to play piano that next weekend at church. Just using natural things. Now, again, for those who would say, let's go to the doctor, there was not a doctor available, not anywhere nearby. So they used what they had. This is what grandma and grandpa back in the old days used to do. They would use the things that they had. But you and I have been so trained here in the Western world that the first thing we do is we look for a pill, we look for something else. But I saw that they used what they had. I've used some of these things, and I've seen a great benefit from them. But I acknowledge that there's a time and a place for physicians. I have a physician. I've been to the hospital. I've had intervention to help me with health issues, and I am very grateful for them. I am not against doctors. I am grateful for doctors. I love my dentist. I love my physician. The various physicians I've had, I really appreciate them. But again, as I've said before, the most important physician that you have is you. And the more educated you are in the things of nature and how your system operates and how other things affect it, what water is good for, and all of these things, the more educated you are, the better will be, by God's grace, the outcome in your decisions. And so as I end this podcast today, I just want to encourage you to get educated. Search out these things. Read. Don't just watch the Tiger King. Don't just watch whatever comes in your feed on your Facebook or any other thing like this. Go back and educate yourself about yourself. Go and do the things that are most important for your life. Prepare yourself. Many people were not prepared for coronavirus. They're not prepared for an emergency, but maybe you passed this test. But what about the next one? What about the next pandemic? It has been said, let us have health by choice and not by chance. I encourage you to be healthy, to be wise, and to be encouraged, because this is the School of Health Radio, brought to you by 3asoh.com. And we want to thank our producer, Danny Ventura, and our director, Orion Reed. And we want to thank all of you for joining us. God bless and good day. See you next time.